I'm just responding to this week's reading assignment, Understanding Media, and Chapter 1, The Medium is the Message. Just want to focus on this one point that he makes very, very early on in the article. He says, many people would be disposed to say that it was not the machine, but what one did with the machine that was its meaning or message. So the meaning of the medium is not the tool, it's not the product that's being produced by the tool, but the consequence of the action of using that tool. I wanted to illustrate that point by bringing a piece of technology that has made such an important influence on our culture, has made such a dynamic impact in our society, and some of the consequences, negative as well as the positive, of its impact in our culture. And that would be, ready, 3, 2, the air conditioning. Okay? Fact and pure fact. The boom, the population boom here in the Sun Belt, whether it's Dallas or Houston, Phoenix or Miami, you would not have that population growth without the invention of the air conditioning. And here in the Sun Belt, throughout this entire region, air conditioning was integrated into the infrastructure. On the East Coast, whether it's Boston or New York or Washington, D.C., where those societies had existed for hundreds of years prior to the invention of air conditioning units are an afterthought. They do have central air, but you also see window units, and you also see architectural influences, such as front porches, the stoop, where before air conditioning had been invented, families would have to hang out on their front porch or out on the stoop to stay cool during the hot, stymie, summer months of the year. Well, here out in the Sun Belt, you don't see homes with front porches. You don't see stoops because functionally they're unnecessary, primarily because of the air conditioning. Okay? So, a positive influence. You know, now we have been able to expand into the Sun Belt, and cities such as Houston and Dallas and Phoenix are being created in part due to, not in part, totally as a result of air conditioning. But there's some consequences too. Our sense of community has been diminished. You hear people talk about how they live in homes and neighborhoods for 5, 6, 7 years, and they don't know who their neighbors are. Because they're hibernating inside and enjoying the comfort of the air conditioning, you're seeing that diminishing sense of community where people aren't spending time with their neighbors, and they're not looking out at each other's homes like you would see when their cultures primarily depended on front porches for cooling comfort. Okay? The infrastructure in societies where air conditioning was not integrated into their infrastructure, again, whether it's the East Coast or let's even go further east into Europe, you see that they were able to survive without the use of air conditioning through, again, architectural functions such as the front porch. They made their homes long and skinny rather than wide like ranch homes, and the reason why they did that was so they could create a breezeway through their home. Also the dynamic use of public parks and public spaces where people would hang out in plazas and parks, in town squares, because that was where they could get cooling comfort. Okay? One more thing about the article that I thought was pretty cool, and I'm going to use this approach. Excuse me, and I'm going to use this approach to prove my point. He says, today, when we want to get our bearings in our own culture and have need to stand aside from the bias and pressure exerted by any technical form of human expression, we have only to visit a society where that particular form has not been felt, or a historical period in which it was unknown. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to Europe. All right, we're going to hang out in London for a little bit, and then I'm going to give you a little quick tour of St. James Park outside of Buckingham Palace. I thought I'd do this just to prove a point. And then I'm going to take you to Berlin, where you can relax and enjoy the comforts of summer without air conditioning. Then what I'm going to do is I highly recommend you take I'm going to include a link to a 2, 3, 4 minute clip from one of my favorite movies of all time, the 1990 Barry Levinson film Avalon, in where if you watch a few seconds, you're going to see little Elijah Wood, little itty bitty Elijah Wood when he was a baby. Okay, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. Anyway, you'll see Elijah Wood following along as a circus parade marches by his front porch. Then you're going to see, as soon as that's done, you're going to see their grandfather take them out on a hot summer night to sleep out in a park or near a reservoir because that's the only place that they can get comfort from the heat. Okay, that was a time and a period before air conditioning had been invented or integrated into the infrastructure of a culture or society. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye. Off to Europe. We're going to London. I'm going to be really tired when we get to London. I'll probably have to take a nap. So, after a long day of shopping and sightseeing and being an American tourist in London, I am chillaxing in the Palace Park. And right over there you can see Big Ben in the background. So when I wake up from my nap, Big Ben will be looking over me. Peace out. Bye. Nap time in Berlin. Everyone has found some grass in a park and they're taking naps. Oops, the best part of being in Europe is that you can take a nap wherever you want and nobody will think that you're homeless.